Yes.
This one is another one. Congressman Chris Collins, the announcement came in this morning that he'd been indicted on insider trading charges. The basic background is the congressman, Republican out of New York, big backer of the president pretty much from day one, was on the board of a biotech company based in Australia. Got an email from the CEO that they had a failure of a drug trial, and then he's alleged to have called his son, tipped him off to that. The son sells stock. The son tips other people off to this.
Okay, let's back up and just remember, a lot of people are conflating this with the stuff that went on in that Schweitzer book, where congressmen were trading off of legislation. This is not that. Okay, that, by the way, is probably legal. You could probably trade off legislation. This is much more involving the ins and outs of insider trading law, known as the misappropriation theory. What he did was he's on the board.
Right.
He took material information, non-public, that belongs to the shareholders of the company, right? And then basically misappropriated or gave it to somebody else. Now here's the rub: it's still not an open and shut case. If the son took that information, overheard him just say overheard him innocently, that might not be that might not fit the insider trading statutes. If he would have to show that the son gave him a benefit of some type, which adds to the level of intent you have to show to bring this case.
Why would he have to do that? Why would he have to show that he got something from it? He can't just offer it to his son?
Talk to the federal courts.
They
have overturned cases where you cannot show a benefit or a gift between the two. Because here's the thing: in order to establish intent that you actually stole, people don't steal stuff and give it to someone else without a motive to steal, meaning you're getting something in return. So to establish that motive and intent,
getting more love.
So what happened was
that's a good one. I guess they may bring that one.
You never know. That might make its way to court at some point. So Andrew, the way it happened was he was at one of these congressional barbecues, I believe, which was actually being held at the White House. That's when he got the email from the CEO.
Oh, so there you go. Could be innocent.
And I was reading the indictment, Andrew, before we went on the air. He made a number of calls to his son's cell phone almost immediately after receiving the email. Now, I guess we don't know. We know we have the phone records of the calls. The first few, apparently, the son didn't pick up. Finally, they did have a conversation. Then the next morning, I believe, the son started selling stock. So as I said to Harvey Pitt last hour,
it looks fishy, obviously.
That's pretty much textbook. But would you need to know? Could they just deny what was actually said on those conversations, Andrew? Would there be a defense here?
Yes, there will be a defense here, and what I can't really fathom is the Department of Justice bringing these charges against a sitting congressman. I mean, that's really, really amazing if you think about it. There's supposed to be the line, of course, between the legislative and the judicial branch to bring these sorts of charges.
He's on the board of a publicly traded company.
Yeah, exactly.
And by the way, all these stock trades, all suspicious stock trades, including the ones that went before the Tesla announcement, get screened heavily by the FINRA and by the SEC. I will just say this: Barry Sanders, remember him?
Yes. Of course.
The former coach of the Dallas Cowboys.
Barry Switzer.
Barry Switzer. I'm sorry.
Our apologies to one of the best running backs of all time.
By the way, Barry Sanders is a friend of mine. So Barry Switzer, who I do not know, the former coach of the Dallas Cowboys, he was at a football game. He was at like a high school football game where he overheard two executives talking about a stock sale, and he traded on that. He got off the charges. The SEC brought charges against him. It got reversed.
This is an overhearing, though. This is a phone call.
We don't know.
Well, that's the allegation.
You don't know. We know there were phone calls.
Right.
We know that there was a trade. We don't know how he actually got the information. And if you really want to know how difficult this is, look at the Martha Stewart insider trading case, where she never got nailed on criminal insider trading.
Just a quick thing, though. Wall Street Journal in January came out with a report saying that he gave a tip to Tom Collins back in the day and offered the stock for anywhere between $50,000 to $100,000 of innate stock at a discounted price.
He offered to who?
To Tom Price.
To Tom Price,
the Republican there.
The former HHS
Exactly.
secretary,
And then the other major question that I think Andrew was just alluding to is how can a member of Congress serve on a publicly traded company's board?
It's legal, but I'm not saying it's good, but it's legal. But I would be careful with this Tom Price thing.
It's going to come back up now.
But I mean, so we know that he gave an insider tip to Tom Price.
We don't know. I mean, I don't believe Price was questioned by the Southern District as part of this investigation.
There's an investigation going on with the Ethics Committee.
With the Ethics Committee in the House of Representatives, right. So, I don't know, Andrew, it's not an open and shut case, is your point. Is that your point?
No, it's not, but it's dangerous. He never should have been on the board of this company, and as soon as results come in, if he gets any indication, he has to be quiet. I mean, that's common sense. You don't need to be a lawyer or a board member to know that.
But
you can't share that with family members.
I'm just telling you, as someone who's done done so much reporting on this and watched the cases get overturned on appeal. We don't know how that information was communicated to his son. I'm not saying he's innocent. This looks true.
If anything did,
but that's a problem.
But even common sense.
And
even people
insider trading cases are a lot harder to prove nowadays.
Yes.
There's a heightened standard, there's a heightened duty, so it's hard.
You know, I'm a trader, and I know a lot of people, and I hear a lot of things. I will not trade a stock if I have a friend who's on that board.
Yeah,
I mean, the son to trade a stock, whether he knew or not, of a company his father's on the board. I mean, that's just not right.
This happens every day.
Well, it does. Not in my book.
But how that information gets transferred will be whether it's criminal or civil, or whether there's even a case.
That's Charlie's defense.
Just within the last hour, though, he's been kicked off.
Every day, people are
He's been kicked off the Committee of Energy and Commerce, by the way. So that just happened just now.
I did see that, but Paul Ryan doesn't want to have anything quick on either Giuliani or Jay Sekulo's responses that I had at about 15 minutes ago.
Listen, I think that they're trying to delineate, if you look at it, between collusion, which they don't think there's much evidence on, or just evidence that doesn't touch the president, and obstruction, which they're trying to argue, you can't obstruct a president from firing people like Jim Comey. And by doing that listen, they may take as many questions as you want on collusion. Trump may have been literally buffered by everybody below him on the collusion aspect, but remember, the obstruction is where he's right in the room. So I think that's what they're trying to delineate, saying to Mueller, no obstruction questions. Trying to figure out a legal rationale for that, like how can you obstruct a non-crime, or they've been pretty public about this, and that's what it seems like to me. Now I don't know until you see exactly what they're objecting about.
Oh, anytime. I love.
They weren't. You're welcome, Andrew.
I love it. Anytime. Thank you.
That's great. So they weren't.
Did I just wrap your guest?
Wouldn't be the first time, by the way. Wouldn't be the first. Actually, that is a good point to wrap it up. Thanks, guys. We appreciate it. Dan, Andrew, Charlie, Kristina.